Coming up, the LA Kings clinch their spot in the playoffs, and the Islanders not doing themselves any favors in the wild card chase. This is Locked On Game to Game NHL.
Every game, every team, every angle. Locked On Game to Game, your team every day.
Welcome in. You're listening to Locked On Game to Game NHL, local experts going over the biggest stories on the ice and recapping all of the action for you from last night in the NHL. I'm your host, Kainani Stevens. Thank you for making Locked On your first listen every single weekday. The Kings are headed to the postseason after they beat the Canucks on the road last night. Locked On Kings has more on the win, and they're looking ahead for LA.
The Kings punched their playoff ticket. Hi, I'm Eddie Garcia with the Locked On LA Kings podcast. LA Kings did something they hadn't done since 2018, beat the Canucks in Vancouver to get a 4-1 win on Sunday. Alex Iafallo scored the Kings' first two goals, one on the first, one on the second, to give him 14 on the season. Arthur Kaliyev had a big goal in the third period to make it 3-1, his 12th of the year, and Blake Lizotte sealed it with an empty net goal, his 11th of the season. Goalie Jonas Korpisalo allowed one goal on 25 shots. He improves to 5-2-1 since joining LA. The Kings unfortunately continue to deal with injuries. Kevin Fiala was a scratch in this one. Gabe Velarde and Mikey Anderson didn't make the road trip, and now defenseman Alex Edler's out of the lineup. He left in the first period of this one with an upper body injury and didn't return. But again, the Kings get a huge win. They reclaim second place, the Pacific Division, jumping over Edmonton, reach the 100-point mark on the season, and have clinched a playoff spot. We'll have a full recap of the two wins from over the weekend against the Canucks and Kraken on Monday's show. For more, check out Locked On LA Kings wherever you get your podcasts, your team every day.
The Flyers could not keep up with the Penguins yesterday. They lost 4-2. Locked On Flyers goes over the loss in Pittsburgh.
Hi, this is Rachel Donner with your Locked On Flyers quick reaction to the Flyers' 4-2 loss to the Pittsburgh Penguins. Penguins certainly had a lot of emotion in this one with Chris Letang's 1,000th game and Brian Rust's 500th game and their quest for the playoffs, but Flyers did not give up in this one. They made it close 3-2 at the very end of the game, but at the same time they just couldn't finish on their shots, especially the power play, which has continued to struggle. But Sam Ersson, I think, played a really great game as well. Just that one fluky goal that came out of nowhere he might want to have back. But for more on this game and the Flyers all season long, tune into the Locked On Flyers podcast.
The Islanders dropped a game they desperately needed to Carolina on Sunday. Locked On Islanders says the team does not look like they even want to win games when they take the ice.
The New York Islanders played uninspired hockey and fell 2-1 to the Carolina Hurricane. Gil Martin of Locked On Islanders here. Another poor performance by the Islanders. They look sloppy in their own zone, uninspired, and couldn't put more than one good pass together in a row. And the result was a 2-1 loss to the Carolina Hurricane Sunday evening. If it wasn't for Ilya Sorokin, this game would have been one-sided, maybe 5 or 6-1, but Sorokin kept his team in the hockey game. The Islanders' power play did nothing. Their offense next to nothing, and they struggled to clear pucks out of their own zone and transition from defense to offense. The result, they're outplayed, outworked, outsmarted, and outscored by that final 2-1 margin. For more on the Islanders, listen to and watch the Locked On Islanders podcast with me, Gil Martin, wherever you get podcasts.
Coming up, the Flames just barely keeping themselves in wild card contention. This is Locked On Game to Game NHL. Today's edition of Locked On Game to Game is brought to you by Athletic Greens. This is a product that I use literally every day. I started taking AG1 to help my immune system and keep myself healthy. It works with your diet, whatever that might be, gluten-free, vegan, dairy-free. It's important that you include a multivitamin in your diet, and AG1 makes it really simple for you to do. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. So to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/NHL Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Welcome back. You're listening to Locked On Game to Game NHL. Local experts join us to go over the biggest stories on the ice. I'm your host, Kainani Stevens. Thank you again for making Locked On your first listen every weekday. The Flames are stringing together some wins as they are holding out a little tiny bit of hope at that chance at a wild card spot. Locked On Ducks and Locked On Flames are checking in with us postgame.
The Ducks squander a late lead, but inch that much closer to landing Connor Bedard. Hi everyone, Jason JD Hernandez here from Locked On Anaheim Ducks. As Anaheim blew a late third period lead to the Calgary Flames 5-4. Lukas Dostal was stellar in net, stopping 36 of 41 shots. Well, not stellar enough, because Calgary, fighting for that last playoff spot, did everything they could to get that victory. As for Anaheim, they inch that much closer to getting the best odds to land Connor Bedard. Combined with the Ducks' loss and Columbus's victory, the Ducks now have the second best lottery odds to land Connor Bedard. Tune into the next episode of Locked On Anaheim Ducks for more on this game.
For the first time this season, the Calgary Flames have won 4 in a row. Hello everyone, and I'm Jess Belmosto from Locked On Flames, and this is the second straight win for Calgary when trailing after 2 periods. Mind you, they hadn't done that in their first 75 games. It was a great night, horrible start. We can just pretend the first period didn't exist, especially for Jacob Markstrom, but the Flames did look great. You had scoring from all over the lineup, really just your defensemen and your bottom 6. But, Daryl Sutter hasn't managed to get this team eliminated yet, so in Sutter we trust, and the Flames aren't dead.
Detroit able to take down Toronto with some impressive outings from their young guns. Locked On Red Wings is in to recap an entertaining game.
Well, Scotty, the Detroit Red Wings celebrated Marco Kasper's NHL debut in a big way, going in Toronto, winning 5-2, thanks to Dylan Larkin scoring his second career hat trick.
Yeah, man. What a fun hockey game. I mean, for real. Well, Larkin having some family in the crowd made that kind of funny, too. And say what you will about the Detroit Red Wings. We got the best dads in the NHL. All right, let's make that very clear. But no, great performance by Larkin. Obviously, that top line in general just seemed to be producing really, really well. Marco Kasper obviously just thrown right into the fire. 2C in Toronto, first NHL game, kind of crazy.
18 years old.
The kids played. I mean, Edvinsson played, looked really solid. Bergeron had a really good game. It was a very youth-centered game, and they came out on top, and that's kind of encouraging and fun.
And of course, Alex Nedeljkovic making over 40 saves in this one, stood on his head as he continues to play really well since being called back up. We'll talk about the whole game on Monday's episode of Locked On Red Wings.
The Caps drop one to the Rangers on Sunday as their season begins to wind down, but the frustrations begin to boil over. Locked On Capitals joins us with the details.
Capitals fall to the New York Rangers by a score of 5-2. This is Dan Holme of Locked On Capitals. Well, the Caps got off to a slow start again, and the New York Rangers took advantage of that as they really took it to the Capitals. The Rangers controlled the tempo and were up 2-0 at the end of the first. Then in the third, a fluky goal by Capo Kakko made it 3-0. And then from there, it was just all advantage Rangers. They kept pouring on the pressure, and the Capitals didn't really have an answer for it. The defense was folding in front of Darcy Kemper. I think that for the most part, Darcy Kemper did what he could do. It's just that New York team was so hungry for the win, and they pick up the win. And then the frustration has started to boil over at the end of the game. Alex Ovechkin took a late penalty for cross-checking after a run-in with Barclay Goodrow, who caught Ovechkin up high. Tom Wilson then stood up for his teammate, dropping the gloves with Goodrow, while Martin Feravari and Nico Mikkola also fought. So it was one of the games that, the Capitals, of course, should have won. They have beat the Rangers before, but I think that at this point, they're just frustrated and caught up in their own head. I'll have more on this for you tomorrow on Locked On Capitals, your team every day.
That'll do it for this edition of Locked On Game to Game NHL. Thank you for making Locked On your first listen every single weekday. Make sure that you are subscribed to Locked On NHL and your favorite team's Locked On podcast on YouTube and wherever else you get your podcasts from. I'm Kainani Stevens. This has been Locked On Game to Game.